Oh, hey again. Time for another technological throwback from me, Zak Wolf. This time I'm talking about another vintage Apple computer from my collection of vintage Macs that's now 20 years old. One that really holds a lot of sentimental value to me. An eMac desktop computer. For those too young to remember, the eMac was Apple's all-in-one PowerPC G4 based desktop aimed at the education market, though it was also a popular low-cost all-in-one Mac with consumers, costing less than the pricier iMac G4s and G5s at the time. It was their last all-in-one model to use a CRT monitor, and as such, with a 17-inch flat CRT display in this thing, this is a very heavy Mac, weighing 50 pounds. Fortunately, I'm a very strong wolf, so digging this out in my basement wasn't too difficult for me. Even if this doesn't have a grip handle like the iMac G3 does. Also, unlike the iMac G3, it has a fan-based cooling system, which is essential since such a G4 processor with 142 GHz speed would understandably generate more heat than a G3 processor running somewhere between 233 and 700 MHz. And it only came in white, compared to the iMac G3 famously coming in different color options. Now the reason for the sentimental value is that this is my very first Mac I bought for regular computer use, way back in 2009. How I finally made the jump from Windows to the Mac side. You may have even seen this in the background of a few of my older videos too, before I was created. This eMac was a decent affordable way to get a Mac, like that ad campaign said, even with PowerPC support being dropped a while after. And for those who do digital media work like me, I could get by with this eMac pretty well. It has a 1.42 GHz G4 processor, along with the RAM maxed out to 2 GB, a 160 GB hard drive, an ATI Radeon 9600 graphics card with 64 MB of dedicated video RAM, and a dual-layer DVD burning super drive. Still a tray loading model compared to the iMac G5 having a slot loader. This is also back when I was burning home movies onto disc, which I could do courtesy of Apple's iDVD software. For peripheral connecting, I've got 3 USB 2.0 ports, 2 FireWire 400 ports, audio in and out jacks, Ethernet, and even a 56K modem I never used. Because when I bought this, it even had an Airport Extreme Wi-Fi card installed. Back in the days of PowerPC Macs, the desktops generally didn't have Wi-Fi already built in, but you could get an airport card of some kind and plug it into the proper slot with the antennas already supplied, allowing your Mac to work with wireless internet. By this time, the iBooks and PowerBooks had airport already built in, because they were laptops, and in our old house, running an Ethernet line up to the second floor wasn't feasible. Not like in our current ranch-style house where we could easily run an Ethernet line up to my room. Even with the Wi-Fi in this, I've ended up hooking up the Ethernet connection for demonstrating this classic. I regularly used this baby until after 2011 when I got my first Intel Mac, a 2009 polycarbonate white MacBook, since PowerPC support was really winding down by then. But I did still occasionally use this from time to time, like in a scenario where I couldn't use the MacBook. In fact, I'll start it up for you now. There we go. Yeah, you can hear the fan running. There, it's loading. I also just put a new PRAM battery in this too. Yeah, PowerPC Macs do take a little longer to boot up than even an Intel. There we go. Running Mac OS 10.5 Leopard, I could sync my old iPod Nano using iTunes and import photos and some videos I took on my older Canon PowerShot still camera I was using then into iPhoto 09. Let me tell you, updating this iPhoto library after having used the iMac in its over 10 years was pretty time consuming. But look, I now have my latest FurryCon photos in this. Also, to currently browse the internet on this, the version of Safari installed on this won't work anymore. So I downloaded something called Interweb PPC, an open source version of Firefox designed for surfing the internet on older PowerPC Macs. I don't do much web browsing on these old PowerPC Macs though. Usually it's to download ancient abandonware from Macintosh repository or something. Also, I'm sure some of you may remember when the Mac OS had something called Dashboard. That was where all your widgets were normally placed. This feature was eventually removed after Mac OS 10.15 Catalina, but the widgets were added back into Mac OS 11 Big Sur, generally only accessible through the sidebar. But as with Mac OS 14 Sonoma, you can place them on your desktop, similar to the gadgets in Windows. Heck, on this eMac, I could even edit standard definition videos on not just iMovie HD6 and Final Cut Express, but also iMovie 09 via a certain hack. Since the ATI Radeon 9600 and this baby supported core image, that meant I could bypass the Intel or G5 requirement and run that version of iMovie on this. Editing was snappy and responsive, but of course rendering was slower. In fact, most of the YouTube poops I originally made from 2010 to mid-2011 were on this eMac, either on iMovie 09 or iMovie HD6. And I created a few of my early stupid statement dance mix tracks on GarageBand 09. Also, I never really used Final Cut Express to make the YouTube poops because, like I said, it was pretty daunting. And even with the slightest adjustment, like color correction or something, you couldn't play back the footage until you rendered it or something. Well, in this, it's already been rendered, so I'm good. Well, a lot of professional editors love the old Final Cut layout. Oh, so who am I to judge? And with my Adobe Premiere experience, I could catch on to some of the nuances here for some modern style editing. That was even more complicated than Premiere Pro currently is. But just for a fun throwback, I'm going to edit a little video segment for this on the eMac. Not on Final Cut Express or iMovie 09, but on iMovie HD6 to keep the retro Apple motif going. Yes, this iMovie version is 19 years old, but I've already done a project on iMovie HD5 recently for you all. I've shot some MiniDV footage of a recent furry meetup picnic I attended on this Canon Vixia HV30, which is what I currently use now for standard F MiniDV retro shooting, even though it's capable of HDV. But I have the Vixia HV40 for that. Though eMacs generally weren't really designed for HDV editing, as that was more for the PowerMac and iMac G5s at the time, as well as the PowerBook G4, like I demonstrated for you recently. Okay, I've got the camcorder plugged in by FireWire, so now I can turn it on. DV is on. Look at that, camera connected. Got iMovie open, the project's in the right settings, so now I'm ready to capture. Yeah, this furry meetup happened on the actual anniversary date of this final eMac configuration's release, which is why I'm making this vlog the day afterward. Now to put the pieces of the video together. Storyboard mode to start. Now to switch to the timeline. Oh, wrong button. Here we go. Yeah, with this version of iMovie, it does take a little longer than the modern versions. It also reminds you of Windows days when I used NeuroVision Video and Pinnacle Studio Plus. This won't be very fancy either. Add a few crossfade transitions and an opening and closing title, and maybe a music stinger or two. Okay, the editing stage is finished. Now to export. Set it to expert settings. Options. I don't want it in HD. Alright, that should be able to support the modern iMovie when I insert this in. The compression and export process will take a while, as it kinda did on these consumer AIM PowerPC G4 Macs. And here's the finished iMovie project for you all to watch. Roll it, Smokey!
One big piece, but I added 2 extras so that it would
Work's not too bad, but we're a little bit better. Keep getting backed up a little bit because of how much like it is.
Yeah, today I'm at a furry picnic meetup at the Boston Common. I'm shooting it on MiniDV and you all get to watch.
Niv has a list. Good to be back. Yeah, good to be back. I don't want to have friends do that on it's $100. Let's fuck around on the weekend and get my car. Because I fixed the shift cable. So during the week of the break.
Huh? Yeah, I was in Canada. I work actually like right down the street. You know those what is like and where?
Check it out, retro camcorder. Yep, good shot.
Oh, okay. Oh, great. So much fun.
Yeah, you're the odd one out. I know.
Oh, 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 oh,
get crowded. Oh my god. No, you're fine. Sorry. Literally don't be so
Look who's come to our picnic.
New Hampshire. So I'm kind of right on the edge, like right in the middle of New Hampshire, right on the edge of Mass.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm like 12 minutes away from the north Mass, like down. So basically, the border of Central Mass.
Oh my god, this dog has a big day.
Right, look at that, just right in the middle, but like down. I'm 12 minutes away. I'm not going to reach out to you because you're a squirrel. You're very cute.
No. It also looks like it's some kind of...
The squirrels here, they expect food. They expect food from people.
I know, that's why I've tried to decondition. I work in the vet industry. They carry a lot of, like they carry tetanus and fungal diseases, and it's got something wrong with its skin.
It's for missing patching.
Oh, poor thing.
They've got fur or anything.
Yeah, that's actually very...
That's what my cats have. And that's what they like. The patching sounds like I recognize those patches. That shades of love. Possible. I know it's a little shaky. Yeah, but if I don't notice that, like.
That's squirrel.
All right, finally some success from a fursuiter. I brought a retro camcorder today.
That's a cool quarter.
Thanks.
Can I just say, by the way, your feet is stunning. Your suit is wait. Shut up. This is an idea. Everybody surrounds all the cats around.
Everyone's got so much to say. All the bad things disappear.
Now wasn't that fun? Because this is running macOS 10.5 Leopard, it means I can't use classic mode, since I'd only worked on macOS 10 versions up to Tiger. But I've already got a few such PowerPC Macs that can run macOS 9 applications anyway, either natively or through the classic mode of macOS 10 Panther or Tiger. Additionally, I can still run MS-DOS games via the Boxer app, along with old PC games using the Scum engine, just as I do on an Intel or Apple Silicon Mac.
It says, caution.
My earliest Humongous Entertainment Let's Play videos were actually produced on this eMac. I even installed an older PowerPC compatible version of ScreenFlow on it. Also regarding this, like I said, this is the last configuration the eMac came in. And in October 2005, Apple stopped selling these to consumers, but still sold them exclusively to educational institutions until the summer of 2006, when a somewhat lower spec version of the 17-inch Intel Core Duo iMac took its place. And once again, like the iMac G3, it became popular in education institutions. Like I said, for a long time, all-in-one desktop Macs are popular in public school computer labs. Heck, even my college's video editing lab recently got those fancy new Apple Silicon Macs for the start of this semester in the school colors, since those iMacs come in different colors as an intentional throwback to the iMac G3. Also, nowadays in a school or some other educational institution, you'll mostly find Macs in digital art and graphics classes, along with audio and video editing labs, as was the case in my high school and college. The digital music class in my high school even used eMacs. And so with the newer iMacs, it makes digitizing my college's old analog master videotapes a cinch for me. As long as I have the appropriate FireWire to Thunderbolt adapters, of course. Provided I'm not using the Thunderbolt Blackmagic Design video converter box we use for other analog players. Yeah, I've often stated that Macs are built to last, which is why they're so expensive when new. This eMac cost $999 when new 20 years ago. And still going strong 20 years later. It's not my oldest Mac currently on hand. I have an iMac G3 for 2001 that I refurbished, but that's for another time. And I hope you enjoyed that little home movie I shot at that furry meetup picnic. So as always, stay tuned to this YouTube channel to see whatever I show up next. Be it another older Mac computer, some other older video recording technology or whatever. Or YouTube poop, or some update regarding the animation and media world.